on this upcoming attractions, we got trailers for Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, The Forever Purge, Green Knight, Stillwater, and of course Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Also, our review from Spiral from the Book of Saw. All this and more on Midnight Double Feature.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Double Feature. This is an upcoming attractions episode. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of trailers. Snake Eyes, Forever Purge, Green Knight, Stillwater, Venom, and then at the end we're going to be giving our review on Spiral from the Book of Saw. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Matthew C. Vella. What's happening, Matt?
Oh, thanks. It's very good to be here, Zoheb, as your interviewee. Oh, good man. How are you?
Getting too used to that. I'm just like, which hat am I putting on today? I don't even know.
We're doing a few lately. Do we have one for this episode? No,
we don't have one for this episode. We are trying to line something up that I've got cooking on in the background. Hopefully for the next episode, we'll see. No promises. But yeah, none for this episode. This is just us, dude. Just riffing, just going back and forth.
It's almost,
the OGs.
It's like nostalgic. Remember when the Midnight Double Feature podcast was good? Those are the days.
Back when it was good.
Yeah.
Back when we weren't hacks and selling out.
Yeah, we weren't sellouts. By the way, this episode is brought to you by our Patreon because no one will sponsor us.
Yes, and please remember to check out Audible. You can check out Audible for free. But no, we're not with Audible.
MeUndies, Squarespace, you can check them all out. We'll get nothing for it, but it's our audition. Squarespace, please sponsor us. I have 3 websites that I've built through Squarespace. It'd be lovely if they sponsored us.
What's the one where they shave your nuts? What is that one where they provide the stuff that shave your nuts?
There's a few going around. I think the Manscaped is the big one.
That's the one. Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's Manscaped, but
they don't physically shave your nuts, but you get my drift.
I always see an ad. I'm not sure if it's Manscaped or another company, but it always starts with "Your balls will thank you." And I see it on YouTube all the time, and it's just the weirdest thing where I'm walking around the house watching a YouTube video without headphones, and out of nowhere you just hear this loud voice saying, "Your balls will thank you." And I gotta make sure no one's looking at me thinking I'm watching some weird fucking ball fetish shit.
How weird would it be if our balls gained sentience and they could just talk? They could just thank you.
Thanks for grooming me today, Zoheb.
Hey, thanks for slamming me against the vagina.
I don't like it. It's dark and wet in there.
Oh shit! In there? You put it inside?
Is that not how you have sex? How are you having sex? Everybody knows that's what they mean by balls deep. You got to put the balls inside it. That's how. This is sex ed 101.
Welcome to Sex Education by Midnight Double Feature. Look, the only reason we're riffing, I think, is because we've got a bit of time this episode. I think, it's not our usual kind of like jam-packed episode, but we are, we're going to spend some time going through these, which is great because, like I said, gives us some time to go through these a little bit. Before we do get into those, let's take some time to talk about what we've been watching, what we've been doing. I've been watching a few things, but I kind of want to hear what you've been cooking.
Fuck. What have I been up to, man? I spent the last week binging all the Saw movies. Growing up, I used to go every October. Like, I don't know any other franchise where, like, I know Marvel, you're always guaranteed a certain amount of films a year. But for like a good...
Paranormal came pretty close for a while. Paranormal had that going, I think, yearly almost for a while.
Oh, true, because I think after Saw, Paranormal kicked in. And at least with... I know with Saw, what I loved about it is every October, new Saw film. For like more than 5 years, it was like that. Might have been a similar situation with Paranormal Activity. I never really got deep into that franchise. But...
I just looked it up. So Paranormal Activity, it kicked off from Paranormal Activity 2 because that came out in 2010, and then 3 came out in 2011, 4 came out in 2012, and then they took a year off, and then they did the spin-off, the marked ones, and then the year after that it was the Ghost Dimension, the last one.
So they're pretty consistent, like those, like how Assassin's Creed video games and Call of Duty used to be. But I watched them all in a week, and it is rough. But I'm a huge.
I don't know how you did that.
It's tough at first because the first 4 especially are edited like early 2000s new metal music video, and it's lots of flash cuts and stuff.
The details.
Yeah, but look, that was real fun to do that because I'm very nostalgic for that franchise. What else have I been watching? I've been streaming a bunch of shit. I've Solar Opposites on Disney Plus.
How is that? That's isn't that Justin Roiland's show?
So good, man. Yeah. It's a little less dark and a little less trying to be smart than Rick and Morty, but there's a character who has pretty much the same voice as Rick, but his personality is a little different. He's like an alien that he hates humans, but he always hates them, like rips on them for like little, small, weird things. I think it's kind of, if you're a fan of Futurama, I think it's worth checking out. Because while it is sci-fi,
Colin would love that. Man.
Like it's sci-fi, but like you know how Futurama is kind of like it's a diorama of the future. This is more like it's aliens observing humanoid life and often not understanding it correctly, which I find kind of fun. I don't know if it's as good as Rick and Morty, but I enjoy it. There was a show I was binging recently. I can't remember what it was. I gotta pull it up. But the main thing I've been doing is I've been obsessed with playing Days Gone on PS4. I've been smashing through it, just trying to finish all these things. It's unpolished, but it is a fun game, and I'm having fun with that. What have you been up to, man? I gotta remember there's one other show I've been binging. I'm just trying to. I remember I finished it the other day. I can't remember what it was. But in the meantime. What have you been up to, man?
I've been watching some stuff like here and there. I've been watching. Actually, Steph and I just finished a miniseries based off a true story called The Act.
The Act.
And it's on Hulu in the States, but here it's on Binge. It's an 8-part miniseries, and it follows it's based on a true story about the murder of a woman named Dee Blanchard. And I'm just going to give you kind of like the broad strokes of this. It's pretty wild.
All right.
So Dee Blanchard, and this is all in the trailer, so you can kind of like gather this. Dee Blanchard had a disease called Munchausen by proxy, which is basically when a mother or a carer intentionally keeps their child sick or believes their child is sick so they can care for them, over care for them.
I remember hearing of that many, many years ago. I don't know why the fuck that would come up in a conversation. I guess it's kind of similar to like, it's like a control thing. That's interesting. So is it based on true story?
Thing, yeah.
Is it based on true story?
It is based on a true story, and it ends in a very grisly fashion. I urge you not to look up the details before watching the show because I watched it completely blind. Steph knew about the case before, and she was kind of like watching my reaction as this kind of like crazy case just unfolded over 8 episodes. It stars Patricia Arquette and Joey King, and both of them are amazing. So Joey King plays the daughter of Dee Blanchard, and she's the one who is being over cared for, basically.
Right.
And things happen. The daughter eventually builds up resentful feelings towards her mother. Eventually discovers things, and grows increasingly resentful towards her mother. And it's
so it's like you're a hypochondriac, but like for someone else other than yourself. Sort of.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's awesome, man. It's a solid show. 8 episodes. You can hit it out. We hit it out over 2 days.
What's that on?
Yeah, that's on Binge here in Australia.
Right. I got to say also, I just something I should add with watching the Saw movies in Australia. It's a fucking challenge because only 2 of them are on streaming services. I think Saw 5 is on Amazon Prime, and Jigsaw is on Binge. The rest I actually rented from either iTunes or YouTube. Varying different ones because Saw 2 was really
How
hard
much
to
money
find.
did you waste on this
I
franchise
honestly
over the week?
must have thrown in like at least $30, dude. It's plus my movie ticket for Spiral, which, by the way, have you noticed the price of a movie ticket is about the price of like 2 months of Netflix? The value doesn't add up, does it? That's
it's
crazy.
always been like that. It's always been pricey to go to the movies here, I think, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, like other than that, I watched a movie called I Care a Lot, and I want to go ahead and really recommend this. It's a movie. It's an Amazon Prime original, and it stars Rosamund Pike, who you might recognize from Gone Girl. Basically, she is playing a fraudster who is using the guardianship system, legal system, to her advantage. So she's kind of like grifting old people. So,
fuck.
But one day she grifts the wrong old person, and I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it there.
What genre would you say it is?
Awesome,
like drama.
That's tough. Yeah, it's drama. There's a bit of black comedy in there. It feels a little bit like there's some Breaking Bad like kind of like elements in there. I don't know. It's really tough to like put it in a genre. It's not a horror or anything like that. It's intriguing from start to finish. I can't put a genre on it. I don't know. I don't really want to. But like, yeah. Look, don't watch a trailer. Just go in empty, go in blind, and yeah. I mean, like those are the best movie experiences in my opinion.
What was that one called again for the listeners?
It's called I Care a Lot.
I Care a Lot. Cool.
Yeah.
I remembered the other show I've been watching. Because it comes out weekly, just like Solar Opposite, so both of them I haven't finished, which is something I've noticed lately. Streaming services, they're going back to the old model of releasing weekly a lot more. I think it's so to keep the conversations
most of them,
going.
besides Netflix, most of them, like I think the big one that really kind of like kicked that off was The Mandalorian. I think a lot of people kept talking about The Mandalorian, and a lot of like streaming services took notice, and they were just like, all right, we're gonna... Yeah.
Well, something I saw his video on YouTube, and I don't know how reliable this is, but I was saying with Netflix and all that, they don't actually give a shit about the thumbs up, thumbs down button. What they really care about is watch time, which is the same sort of metrics Facebook and YouTube go off. And that's how they kind of decide which shows can go on and stuff like that. Like Netflix, I think recently said someone said there was some article going around saying how Netflix don't like to give shows seasons past season 3 because their data, because they're a very data-driven company, they say most people don't watch past season 3. They usually drop off.
Who said that?
I can't remember the source, but it was widely reported. Like a lot of people picked it up. But I don't think it came from Netflix themselves. But yeah, like it doesn't mean that they're against it. It's just you have to it's got to have like a real high viewer count for them to do it. Like it's easier to get a season 1. It's easier to get a season 2. Past that, it's like it's a big. You got to really convince them pretty much to go past that. Because they think their stats don't line up. But yeah, what I've been watching is Raven's Banquet. You guys are on Apple TV Plus, which is a service I don't know if I want to keep around for much longer, but that's like the only show I'm really watching on there. But I mentioned it last year. I said that show, they did my favorite take on like a COVID quarantine episode that I'd seen all year. But the show, season 1, I had a lot of like rocky bumps. Like it wasn't the best writing, but I really liked the cast. There's a few guys from Always Sunny in Philadelphia in it, and it's got Danny Pudi from Community is in it. And the writing really stepped up this season, which is nice. So it's kind of keeping me around. So that's kind of fun. And yeah, before we go on, dude, I think there's an elephant in the room we should address as well. As far as I'm aware, we haven't talked about it. Neither of us have watched Jupiter's Legacy. Is that right? Have you seen that?
No, I have not. I was
It's funny that we haven't talked about it.
Some stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's just so much superhero content that's out there right now, I think, and I don't want to take on another one. I mean, after The Boys, after Invincible, I don't know. I'm just I understand, like, it's a Mark Miller, right? Like, it's a Mark Miller property. which means that it's probably going to be good. And according to Netflix, it had a really high viewership. But I don't know. I don't really want to take on another one, do you?
It's interesting how little we care. Like, we haven't brought it up. No one in the after party has mentioned it. If you have, let us know if it's worth watching. Because, like, generally, it's like superhero stuff. Like, I jump on that like crazy. But when I first heard about it, my first thought was, oh, it's a series adaptation of Jupiter Ascending. It is not. That's where my mind went.
Oh, dude, 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Jupiter's Legacy. I saw IGN gave it a 7 out of 10, which normally I'm often agreeing with a lot of their movie reviews. I haven't lately though. Like, I really disagreed with their one on Saw, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's just surprising how no one I know has mentioned this show, and maybe just because we're so spoiled. I think also their costumes look cheesy as fuck. But yeah, like I had this conversation with a friend the other day, and he was like, he loves The Boys, and he's like, oh, me and my girlfriend were watching the DC animated films. It's cool how gritty and stuff they can be. And I'm like, oh, well, what do you think of Invincible? He's like, what's Invincible? I'm like, motherfucker, like everything you're complimenting here is tenfold applies to Invincible. You know, and he's like, oh, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll watch Jupiter's Legacy instead. Like, no, shut the fuck up. Watch Invincible and then thank me later. Trust me on this.
Yeah, Invincible is a lot less common or well known. I mean, like, okay, so I'm just looking up Jupiter's Legacy here. Stephen S. DeKnight is the showrunner. He also did Daredevil, like the first couple seasons of Daredevil.
Oh fuck. Okay.
So I mean, like, there's some solid like pedigree behind the camera for sure. But I mean, like, I'm not. I think I'm kind of getting slowly burnt out by that whole TV superhero genre. I mean, like, you know, you've also got the Umbrella Academy as well. I mean, I'm good. Thanks.
Well, remember, if it wasn't for like, I don't know what happened, whatever the fuck happened with DC, I'm surprised Doom Patrol isn't still going forth with seasons, because the first season, I haven't seen it yet, but I had Brendan Fraser and everybody loved it that I know who's seen it. There's been a lot of superhero shows lately, and a lot of them are all going down the what if superheroes were realistic and gritty, and sure, The Boys Invincible is great, but I'm already getting tired of that trope. Yeah. Should we get into this episode, man?
All right, man. Let's move on. Let's move on to some actual content. A few trailers this week. Some exciting ones, some not so exciting ones. Looking at you, Venom. I'm looking right at you. Let's kick it off with something that's exciting, but also I don't know why they're calling this a trailer. It's a minute long, and I was really excited for, like, you know, the first footage for this, because this has been in development for a while. I love the cast behind it. Samara Weaving, Henry Golding. It's Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. And this is obviously a spin-off of the G.I. Joe franchise, but a little bit more of a kind of like a soft reboot situation. And, you know, while the trailer does look pretty awesome, like the martial arts stuff looks really great, the swordplay looks awesome, the action sequences look great. What is this 1 minute trailer bullshit? What is this? This is a TV. This is a Super Bowl spot.
It's a teaser. It's exactly
is it actually? Because
no. It should be called a teaser.
It should be, but it's not. Like, it's actually like a trailer, right?
Yeah, like a Super Bowl spot's normally 30 seconds. It feels like a teaser. It feels like. Wait, was there a release date announced with this trailer?
Yeah, July 23.
Yeah, so I think from my understanding, talking to a friend of the show who's been in movie advertising, a lot of the marketing agencies for these films are going now is they are still promoting films as if they're going to hit cinema, but they're reducing the time window for it. So instead of promoting fucking The Matrix for a full year like they normally would, they would do it in maybe 2 or 1 month or a few months leading up to, so their money goes a longer way. People are talking about it, but instead of talking about it all year, it's a lot more in a shorter period of time. And that way, if COVID kicks in, they'd lose less money, pretty much. So I think that's what's happening here. So this is what would normally be a teaser. I feel like if this is the way things are going to go, it means we might get less trailers. But that's what I think's happening here with that. Look, before you get our thoughts on this trailer, man, what is your experience with the G.I. Joe franchise?
I've only seen the two movies. So Rise of Cobra and Retaliation. I really dig Retaliation.
Is that the second one with Dwayne Johnson?
With Dwayne Johnson, I think that's a solid fucking action film. Yeah, it's directed. That one's directed by John M. True, who did Crazy Rich Asians, and he's doing In the Heights. But like that one's got some wild action scenes, dude. There's that action scene like on the cliffside, which is fucking crazy.
So I only seen.
Other than that, I know G.I. Jose from Family Guy, who was the Mexican, G.I. Joe.
Because I went to start watching them after they came out, and they came out like early 2010s, right? Is that right?
So no, G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra came out the same year as Transformers: Revenge. I'm doing this all off by heart, by the way. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, which is 2009. So that's Rise of Cobra. And then Retaliation came out, I want to say 2013. I'll check that up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure so early 2010s. Yeah, because I watched the first one after it came out, and I was like, this is like a generic blockbuster. I didn't watch the second one, but from my understanding, it is a lot better. It's a bit more out there. It's a bit more blockbustery, and it sort of is one of the reasons why, you know, people would call Dwayne Johnson the franchise Viagra or whatever. You throw him into something and it gets better. So I've been wanting to check that one out because I understand I've seen the shit one. But I don't remember them very well.
I don't want to hate on Rise of Cobra though. Like Rise of Cobra, that movie's still a lot of fun. Like that I mean, like it's Stephen Sommers who did, you know, Van Helsing and the original Mummy. Like it's a lot of fun.
Really? Oh wow. Well, I don't remember it very well. Like, was John Cena in that one, or it was someone who's really
no? He's in neither. That's Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum. That's who's the lead. Of. Yeah. So yeah. Now, correct me from the guy playing Snake Eyes in this. Was he in the other two, or is this a new guy?
So Henry Golding. Yeah, Henry Golding is completely new to the franchise. He was in Crazy Rich Asians. He was in The Gentleman.
But Snake Eyes wasn't the other two. Yeah?
Yeah, so the character's been in the other two. He's never taken off his mask, though.
Right. So, okay, that makes sense. Because my experience with G.I. Joe outside the movies is, I know it's a huge franchise in the 80s. Like, it was G.I. Joe and He-Man. They were, like, the big ones. And then that's before we got, like, Ninja Turtles and all that shit. So it's way before our time. And I know with this whole new... that sort of era of making those movies, they were trying to go like the whole Transformers route type thing. But looking at this trailer, like if you told me it was released in 2013, 2015, I'd believe you because the way that they're doing the color grading and the tone of it all, it feels very 2000s. It's the same shit I've said about the Venom films. It's just like the choice of color grading and stuff. It's like they're chasing a trend which died almost 10 years ago. It's not a bad thing though. In fact, it's probably good for them to be consistent with the other films if it's meant to take place within that universe. And props to them for not like doing an outright reboot like most films would. But yeah, that's cool. I guess if I was a hardcore fan, I'd probably appreciate that. But outside of that, the only thing I can really say from this, because I'm so not really attached to it, is these martial arts scenes look really well filmed. Like they're using lots of wide angles. They've got real fast movements. Like generally these big Hollywood blockbusters, summer blockbusters, they often kind of the action scenes feel like the martial arts hand-to-hand fight scenes feel really like they shit the bed. Like you look at Mortal Kombat, the first and last scenes are shot amazingly. Everything in the middle, it's just like a clear step down in quality. But what we're seeing in this trailer, it's like they're doing the action right. And I think if you nail that with a film like this, you're going to keep your audience happy. So shouts to them. It's not going to be a film I see on the first day out. But I don't know, maybe if I get around to watching those other two G.I. Joe movies again, that might change my mind. What are your thoughts on this trailer?
Yeah, this is probably something that I'll see on the first day. I think Snake Eyes was one of the more badass characters in the other two films. So it's going to be, you know, I wasn't like clamoring for an Origins film, but now that we're getting one, I'll definitely be there, probably day one, because like, look, it's a minute long trailer, but I think it shows me all I need to know about the aesthetic, about what I'm probably likely going to get. I don't really, I don't know enough about color grading to know that this looks like a 2010 film. I don't know.
When I say that, I mean, I can tell the exact thing. What they're doing is the shadows have like a shit ton of blue in it. It's very like Michael Bay Transformers type style.
Don't you fucking dare.
No. Michael Bay made it cool. Dare. He started it, and then all the fucking ripoffs came who just tried to copy and paste him. And look, it's not a bad thing. It's a thing.
I'm gonna say Tony Scott probably started it before Michael Bay. Actually, I like Tony Scott. If you watch like
what's he done,
Days of Thunder or Top Gun or like those movies are drenched in that kind of style, and I think Michael Bay's just like, yeah, I like that. Give me more. But yeah, like dude, I'm so on board with this movie. I can't wait. I think Henry Golding is solid. Yeah. Give this to me. Inject it into my veins. I'm keen to see a longer trailer, though.
Yeah.
I want to see a longer trailer.
You know what? Also, coming back to, and I could be wrong on this, but I doubt anyone of our listeners are this much into it to correct me, but the song used in the trailer, I'm pretty sure came out like 5 years ago as well, which just really adds to my whole, this feels like an outdated film. I'm not saying it's bad. It just feels like it's chasing trends that came out a while ago. But you actually come to think of it, did you say this has been in development for like ages?
I don't know about ages. Let me look it up. Just try and stall time.
I also heard someone compare this to the Wolverine in the sense that it's like an origin story. And I think a lot of it takes place in I could be wrong, but yeah, North America, I'll say. But again, it's only a minute footage.
It's been in development since May 2018, which generally is long, but like not huge. Ray Park. Yeah, Ray Park played the original guy, and Ray Park is
Darth Maul?
He played Darth Maul. He played Toad in X-Men, the original one. Yeah.
Hey, Zohab, I have a question for you.
I know what you were about to say because I was about to ask it too, bitch.
Well, okay. Then now none of us can say the joke. You ruined it. Move on. Next topic.
Something struck by lightning. Something. Everything else.
Yep. Something. Halle Berry.
Let's get to our next trailer. Let's talk about the Forever Purge. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna leave this out of the agenda. But I was like, no, because I watched this trailer and I was like, man, that looks fucking okay. Because the last Purge went direct to DVD. Like, they haven't been coming out theatrically. Like, I've only seen the first Purge. I've only seen the Purge Anarchy as well, the one with Frank Grillo, which is fucking badass. I really like that movie. And I haven't seen Election Year. I haven't seen the first Purge. I haven't seen the TV show.
I forgot there was a TV show. Holy shit.
Yeah. But like this, this popped up on my news feed, and I was like, oh fuck. This looks fresh. This looks like a fresh take on the premise, this long worn premise that they've like kind of like worn out nearly. And I'm really excited to see what they do. And I think also another reason explaining why it looks fresh is because it's not the original director. The original director did all of those previous films. His name is James DeMonico. And this guy is I think he's a first-time director on a feature. Yeah. So it's his first feature film. He's worked on a lot of TV shows, including Luke Cage and Snowpiercer. His name is Everardo Gout or Goot. I don't know. But yeah, the trailer for this looks absolutely solid. I love the color palette.
Yeah. My experience with The Purge is super limited. I think I saw the first one. I saw at least half of it. I don't remember a lot. And then they all kind of look the same. They don't seem bad. And I love the concept. In fact, it's funny. This is just going to be the common theme for this episode. But it's got a lot of parallels to, I think, the Saw franchise in the sense that the concept has a bit of thought into it. It's a little like, it's got a little something to say. But then they've sort of recycled the same formula over and over again. To the point where it's just become like edgy for the sake of it. It's funny is this one, much kind of like the new Saw film, it's like they've tried to do it taking a new direction. And I think this direction is way more interesting in the sense of what you could do with this. Like it's funny. It's a franchise I really should catch up on because I think it.
Well, because it also kind of like it doesn't really answer a question, but like it also plays into the question. One of the questions that you have while you watch the other Purge movies is that, you know, when the Purge ends, right, and crime becomes illegal, does everyone automatically just become fucking like law-abiding citizens again? Like like that's such a weird concept. Like the aftermath of the Purge. And, you know, this obviously says, no, hey, look, no, these guys don't go back to being normal.
The way I think a lot of film franchises fuck up majorly is that they somehow lose touch reality and they become a caricature of themselves. Like,
example?
Okay, take any slasher film, right? You get some killer, it's Jason, it's Freddy, it's whoever the fuck. They kill everybody. You never see a scene where they go, okay, we're going into martial law. Or like, how would the government react? How come the FBI is not investigating these murders? There's just so many that instead they all just go back to their day-to-day lives. They go back to the routine, the flow of the film. Like they don't get that connected. Like even fucking the Marvel movies, as much as I love them, it's like, how come no one's tried to like fucking drop a bomb on fucking the Hulk lately? You know, like he's causing all this damage. Like I guess they have the Sokovia Accords and shit, but that's like one movie out of like 20 films. Like what's interesting about this is like every single The Purge movie has been announced the next Purge. You know, like they're getting into the stuff. Like in real life, there'd be a whole story of when the lawyers come in because you damaged property the wrong way. How does this affect every other aspects of life? Like if you compare it, like the Saw movies later on, they try and go into like people who survived and how they feel, but like they just scratch the surface. I'm not saying this film's not going to shit the bed. Like with the franchise that's gone this long, it's only a matter of time. But yeah, I like the idea when you explore all the other avenues. My favorite stuff in like Marvel or even like Star Wars and stuff is when they reveal another aspect of life you wouldn't have thought about and how this is affected by these new sci-fi shit going on. What's something else I think is really interesting that you brought up that's worth mentioning is if this franchise went direct to DVD and then back to like theatrical releases, that doesn't happen a lot without a reboot. Like
this feels like a reboot.
Yeah, I guess. But with the subtitle though, it doesn't. I think you could argue it either way. But like, can you think of any other franchises that went direct to DVD and then continued on? I guess that's a good thing about horror films, right? Wrong Turn. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that counts. Not a lot. Chucky, kind of, but like they kind of changed him a lot.
Friday the 13th?
No, I don't think that ever went.
Do you mean like DVD. Without a reboot?
Preferably without a reboot. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Chucky was a reboot. Yeah, yeah. Without a reboot, like they just continued it on. Not a lot.
I'm gonna go ahead and call this a reboot though, because Purge. Yeah, okay. So I'm just having a look here. So Purge Anarchy had Frank Grillo, and then the Purge election year also had Frank Grillo. This doesn't have Frank Grillo.
But it can still be a continuation without the same cast. It can still take place in that world. I guess it doesn't really matter with a thing like this because you can always have new victims, new whatever. But yeah,
I
don't know.
Then you get into the definition of what a reboot is.
Yeah, I don't expect them to come out with The Scorpion King 6 anytime soon to theaters. Not unless The Rock gets involved.
Let's move on. That's our cue to fucking move on.
Why don't you start talking about Scorpion King direct-to-DVD once? That's the sign.
We've talked about this briefly on the podcast before, but this was ages ago, and this was when the first trailer came out before it was delayed. But The Green Knight is a movie. It's an A24 movie. It's an A24. Just very briefly, to anyone who doesn't know A24. It's a studio that has been exclusively releasing lower budget films, and it's not always horror films. It's sometimes it's dramas, They did Uncut Gems, but their speciality is low budget.
But
This
generally,
Green Knight movie,
generally good low budget ones, I would say. Like they've got a good
generally
reputation
good.
on them.
Sometimes not though. Like sometimes there's a bit of a misfire, but like when they're good, they're really good. So they did Hereditary as well. They did Midsommar. Yeah, like I said, Uncut Gems, which was I got a lot of Oscar buzz.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah. So the Green Knight looks like a A24 movie with a budget, which is really kind of cool to see. And I did some reading about because it's actually based on a real Arthurian legend. Like that's
right.
like King Arthur there, and the Green Knight, the tale of the Green Knight is a real thing. And he is given 1 year to find this being that he's supposed to have a rematch with. Which is kind of wild, man. But look, I think it looks stunning. Like the cinematography looks beautiful. I love the music in the trailer. Dev Patel is a fucking badass in almost everything he's in.
Yes.
Outside of Life of Pi, I mean, Slumdog, and then you've also got Lion, which I think was a home run for him.
Home run.
But this
Sorry,
looks.
I feel like I'm just like your ad lib guy. Like if we're Migos, I'm the guy in the background.
you know what you remind me of? You remind me of Cal Norton Jr. from Talladega Nights when so Ricky Bobby's like giving like a prayer at a dinner, right? And like his prayer is going for so long. He's saying grace. And he's like, "Dear Lord, baby Jesus, would like to thank he's like, he would like to thank my wife." And Cal Norton Jr. is in the background, just like, yeah,
Amen.
shaking bang, yeah. So, but yeah, I think this looks awesome, dude. I don't know a lot of David Lowery's works. He's done some stuff that I haven't seen. He's an A24 guy. But yeah, what do you think about this trailer, dude?
I don't know if I said this on the podcast. I probably did, but look, this looks like the type of film I normally would be like. I feel like the content of this film is the type of shit that I would go, next, I don't give a fuck. But it's a damn good trailer. It's a damn good trailer.
So is it just like, do you not like fantasy? Is that?
I like fantasy. It's just I feel like I like the content of fantasy. I feel like a lot of fantasy films are done in boring ways, though. Like, I like the mythos, I like the characters, I like everything. But all these fucking Lord of the Rings wannabes, most of them they fail in execution. But this is what I like about the film. The execution is chef's kiss. It's the visuals is like the big takeaway, honestly. The visuals match the scale of what this film's setting out to do in terms of fantasy and epicness and mystery and spectacle. Like they're really living up to it. And Dev Patel just looks he screams leading man in this film. Like he's always been great, but he looks like he belongs in this. Like, I can't explain it, but there's some charismatic element of when even he's just not even talking, it's just like, oh, he's just going to nail this, isn't he? Like, there's a special vibe to it where there's clearly a great sense of direction and vision with this project, which has really thrown out anything where I would normally doubt is just out the window. I think the fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the trailer they're titling it as Dave Lowery's The Green Knight. Is that right?
David Lowery's The Green Knight.
Yeah.
Because he's written and directed it.
Right. For the marketing to allow his name that prominently on there, it means either, he's got a huge reputation and I think he did I'm sure he's done I think he's done a few good films, but
his
to
big
do that,
movie is Pete's Dragon for Disney. Like that's the big kind of big budget movie, but
that's not a household title,
No, but critically, The Old Man and the Gun, A Ghost Story, critically those movies are really well received.
Okay, well, regardless of what it is, I think the studio has to have a lot of faith in the film or the direction of it for them to have like a director's name like top billed in a way. Like to have it that prominent on there. Like you never see fucking...
Yeah, I get you.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that's not common these days. So either this dude has the world's best agent or it's a...
Does he? Because his next fucking movie, dude, is Peter Pan and Wendy. Like, how many times are you going to adapt Peter Pan? Fuck. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. We haven't had one in a while, though.
Dude,
have we?
We had one last year.
Are you
it
serious?
Was called, I think it was just called Wendy. Yeah.
I didn't hear that. Was it like a low-budget direct-to-DVD sort of thing?
It wasn't direct-to-DVD, but it was lower budget. This looks big budget.
Is Peter Pan in the public domain, or is that owned by Disney?
I think it's owned by... No, it is owned by Disney. This is Disney.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah, Walt Disney's Peter Pan and Wendy. We had that one with Hugh Jackman.
Fucking with Disney is usually a big deal, even if it is a shit movie. So, I don't know. But look, keen to see it. I'm on board, and yeah, look, if you just showed me the poster, I wouldn't have been. But there's something about this film. I've got good vibes about it, man. Got good vibes.
Absolutely, dude. Me too. Let's move on to Stillwater. This is a movie directed by Tom McCarthy starring Matt Damon.
Yeah. Stillwater is about just some water that's still. It's a sequel to Watching Paint Dry. No, I'm sorry, bad joke. Continue.
Let me just. I'm just gonna go ahead and write a little bit of a note just to edit that out. Just 1 sec here. Yep. Right. Cool. Done. You want to take that again?
So I think the next trailer is Stillwater. Tell me what are your thoughts on this trailer, man?
This looks fucking solid. I mean, not only is it directed by a guy who directed one of my favorite movies in Spotlight, but like Matt Damon looks like, because like Matt Damon is always committed. Like, no matter what role it is, he's always like, 100%. He's like, he reminds me a lot of like Tom Cruise or like Christian Bale in that way. Like he's always 100% in. And this story looks really compelling. He's in, like they're in Marseille, and I have heard of, and I don't think it's in Marseille, but I think it was in Croatia, where a woman was accused of killing another woman, and it was an American national, or might have been an Australian national, was accused of killing another woman. And they were being held there, and there was all of these issues regarding jurisdiction and, who, like, how they can be extradited, if they can be extradited, and how, like, all of those circumstances. And I am always, like me being a lawyer, like, I'm always really excited by that kind of, like, stuff, like the governance, the red tape stuff. This looks really interesting to me from that particular perspective. Outside of like just the movie looking fucking awesome, to be honest. Like it looks like a compelling watch. What do you think?
What I like about this is you can see. I was going to say that you can tell that he's trying, but it's more than that. I like the fact that he's doing an accent. I like the fact that he's got the facial hair. He's made some choices, and I'm big. I like it when actors have a diverse series of roles under their belt. I just think it's more impressive that way, where if you were to make like a Super Smash Brothers game of an actor's like list of characters they've done, I think, and if they're all really different, that's awesome. That's really cool. And Matt Damon, I feel like he's a great actor, without a doubt. Great actor. A lot of his roles, he's the guy from Boston, It's not a lot of really differentiating elements. But like, he still smashes them. It's just, that's his style, I guess. Here you get what you pay for. But with this, like he's taking some risk, he's making some choices. And I really admire that. I think the story seems to have a cool concept. I'm not really sure what to make of it, other than like I know there's great talent behind the camera. I don't have a lot to say on this one, other than more so I just like the fact I'm seeing Matt Damon doing something a little bit different. Yeah.
Just doing some reading. It looks like it's loosely based on a true story. Amanda Knox. Amanda Knox is a American woman who spent almost 4 years in an Italian prison following her conviction for the 2007 murder of Meredith Kircher, a fellow exchange student who shared her apartment. In 2015, Knox was definitively acquitted by the Italian Supreme Court of Cassation. There you go. Nice. I am even more excited now, knowing that this is loosely based on that. That's cool.
Awesome. Yeah, fuck yeah.
All right, let's get to the pile of shit. It's part of
okay.
podcast. Well, I mean, look, I'm taking this in I've done the quality. So if you've noticed how I've hosted this, the quality stuff has been at the top. Now we're getting to the shit, and I'm putting on my plastic gloves, I'm putting on my mask. I've got a bleach in hand. I've got my toilet scrubber. I've got my plunger, and I'm ready to go. Because the next two things we're going to talk about are Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and Spiral. So let's get to Venom first. And I know you probably don't share my thoughts on Spiral, but I can't wait. Let's get to Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Fuck me, man. Fuck. I don't even know where to start. You go.
Okay, I know how to start. I want to speak directly to one of our listeners, one of our longtime fans, Mr. Andy Serkis, who I know, if you're listening right now, are you okay? The public will see this. You were in Lord of the Rings. You were Caesar in fucking Planet of the Apes. Are you aware, have they got your wife and child hostage? Are you directing this under gunpoint? You know you're better than this, man. We all know you're better than this.
Send us an encrypted message to midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. We will respond accordingly.
Blink if you're under gunpoint right now. It's the only sense of hope I ever had for this film was the fact that they had a director who this isn't his first time directing, is it?
No.
Yeah,
he's done a few things.
But they're getting a director who comes from a motion capture background. I thought maybe that would lead to something new or interesting or something. It just seems like a really bizarre choice to get Andy Serkis to direct this. Because you know what this means, Zohab? Just imagine this for a second. Somewhere at some point in time, Andy Serkis had to sit down and watch Venom.
To calm down. You're very hyped up, and I'm scared you're gonna faint.
No, hear me out. At some point, Andy Serkis sat in his chair. He turned on the TV or went to the movies. He saw Venom, and he said, "This is good."
He's British.
I can't do it. Oh, isn't he South African?
No, dude, he's not fucking.
He played a.
Jesus Christ.
He did an accent for that role. Fuck yeah. My bad. Look. Regardless, he sat down, he watched the film, and he goes, "This is good. We need more of this." Now, that's okay. You're allowed to like movies. You're allowed to.
It's not.
But here's the thing. Here's the most bizarre fucking thing that I can't get over. And if you're sitting there at home right now going, "Oh, well, I like Venom." No. Hear me the fuck out, because I don't think anyone can deny this. Every single person on the planet who saw Venom can all agree the worst part about that film was the awkward approach to comedy. And if they cut out the comedy parts, the film would be so much better for it. Now, you're about to introduce the sequel starring a much beloved fan favorite character. You're finally going to bring him to screen after more than 20 years of begging for it. And you open on the most bizarrely awkward comedic section ever with an even more comedic voice for Venom. It's dude, know your fucking audience. I know you're desperate to have Venom eventually appear in a Disney film.
What are all the little kids going to laugh at if there's no comedy?
Dude, this film is about a guy who eats people's heads off. Why the fuck are you trying to make this franchise appeal to kids? I get it. The only reason they're doing it is because they want to somehow convince Disney to let Spider-Man appear in one of these films. I get it. But it's
maybe
know your fucking role. Maybe if you want to dive into comedy, maybe get a comedic director. Maybe get a writer with a background in comedy. Maybe give Venom a comedic sidekick played by a very funny comedic actor. But no, instead you're opening up on the worst first impression possible. It's like they didn't do a single focus test. It's like they learnt nothing from the last film. It is just the most bizarre choice to open the trailer, which has the word Carnage in the title of the name, on such a horribly unfunny moment. After that, it's just more of the same. Like the last Venom film, they're just doing the same shit all over again. Look, Carnage looks cool. Look, the only major compliment I can give is Carnage in suit in the Alien looks okay. Like he looks pretty good, I guess. And they got rid of Woody Harrelson's stupid fucking wig, who I still think is terribly cast. Like Woody Harrelson's a great actor, but he's not good for this role. It's just not going to play to his strengths. It's
he
just
does
bizarre.
Look like a Cletus, though.
I guess. Like there's so many bizarre choices. And I just got to add in one more thing. The inclusion of the character Shriek and the scene of him in the straitjacket alludes to my favorite comic book of all time, series of all time, Maximum Carnage. It is my favorite comic book series ever from when I was a kid. If this is meant to be an adaptation of that, I will fucking murder some cunt. Because also, like, where do you take the franchise from here? You've brought in Carnage, the big bad. What's Venom 3 going to look like? Oh, man. Calm down, Matt. Calm down. It's just a movie. It can't hurt you. It's just a stupid fucking movie directed by a director who's clearly held at gunpoint. Like, they don't know what... Zoheb, what are they doing? Like, okay, look, at least the symbiotes look cool, right? At least they didn't fuck that up. But, oh man, why would they... Oh man. Do you have anything to say?
I was just waiting. I was watching the train wreck of you just talk about this movie. Look, you've got a bed back there. Why don't you just lie down in it and just do yourself a little bit of a psychology session? Yeah, look, man, fuck this trailer. Fuck this trailer. I can't, dude. You should have seen, I wish there was a camera on my face as I was watching this trailer for the first time. Like, it was just completely expressionless. Like, it was just like, oh, okay. By the way, this movie is written by the original writers of Venom, who also wrote
that
50 Shades of Grey. So there you go.
Oh, you know what? 50 Shades of Grey... Sorry, go on.
Don't you fucking dare. Are you about to praise 50 Shades of Grey?
No. I was going to say, you know what that franchise also had in common with Venom films and G.I. Joe? The fucking Blue Shadows. Looking like it was shot in 2010.
Yeah, but they're writers, right? I mean, like, they're not.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's a weird coincidence.
They also wrote Cruella, which is actually getting really good reviews at the moment. But anyway, so... Yeah, this is problematic. I mean, that opening scene, what? I don't know. And Matt, I don't want you to interrupt me because I know you want to jump in. I know, like, as I'm going through this, I know you're going to be like, fuck you, fuck that scene. Just, yeah. I'm going to need you to step back while I get this out.
Zip it up.
That kitchen scene, I don't know who sat down, because look, you're right. This is Andy Serkis's responsibility, but I think it's very much common knowledge that Sony have a huge hand in meddling with their films, especially their superhero films, especially any film related to Spider-Man, or tangentially related to Spider-Man. So, like, I don't know who sat down and watched that scene at the kitchen, like when he's getting when they're singing. It's just incredibly off-putting and incredibly awkward, and like it's just like Venom's voice, who by the way is a modulator, Tom Hardy.
Yeah,
that voice is not meant to be like that, and I get that that's what they're trying to play that for comedy, but it doesn't come off. I think if you do want to do like a good cop bad cop kind of situation, which I think is what they're going for with Tom Hardy and Venom, I think there is another way to approach it, and just this is just not it. Like, it seems incredibly forced. I agree with you. I don't think Woody Harrelson belongs anywhere near this movie. I'm currently rewatching True Detective, and I just fucking am reminded by how good he is in that. But like, it just seems like an easy paycheck for him. Like, he's like, it's just like, oh, cool, great, you're here too. When are you going to put the yellow dots on me and call it a day and, animate me? Like,
Uh,
yeah, please.
Come to think of it, if I remember correctly, I believe around the time Venom came out, they said something like they didn't use any motion capture. I believe it was like hand animated. So if that's the case, that's even less work for fucking Woody Harrelson. He probably just shows up for 3 scenes and the rest is CGI.
Yeah. Incredibly disappointed, I think. You're like, oh, look, the symbiotes look cool. Do they? I mean, like, okay, look, here's what it's going to be. It's literally going to be, because what can you do with these two beings? Like, they're going to get into a physical altercation, right? But, I mean, how is it going to be different to the physical altercation at the end of the last movie? It's just going to be like CG slime going everywhere and like, punching that's going to go through each other's faces. I don't know, man. Like there's just no potential here. I feel like this is dead on arrival for me, at least.
Like, the only thing I can think of, and this is me trying to think a little bit outside the box of what they could do, is in Maximum Carnage, Shriek and Carnage kind of have like a relationship, so maybe you can bring in some new dynamic of,
is Shriek a female?
Some love thing. Yeah, it's so she's I can't remember the actress's name. She's the lady you only see her in one shot.
Naomi Harris. Yep.
And her powers are, she just basically shoots lasers, but I think they've changed it here so she just yells, which is already an incredibly generic super. It's an incredibly generic superpower as it is. But like you sort of touched on there. There's no real attempt to differentiate this from the previous film at all.
No, I agree. And like, here's the thing. It seems like they doubled down on the trash from the first film, but like, I reckon if you go back to our reviews that we talked about after watching the original Venom, I think we were both like, okay, the origin story is out of the way. Like, all of the awkward shit is out of the way. Now with the sequel, we can potentially do a lot of better things. We can potentially do, like, there'll potentially be some growth, and like, hopefully they'll take in a different direction. And it doesn't seem like they've done that. It seems like they doubled down on the trash in the first film, and that is incredibly disappointing.
Yeah, like, my big takeaways from Venom was, okay, like, I was just as mad as I was back then because I can see the potential they could do with this franchise and how much they're fucking it up. Almost to the point that it feels like it might be intentional, just because it's so just tone deaf. But I remember thinking, look, it wasn't offensively terrible. It was just aggressively mediocre with some cringy comedy scenes. And I remember saying, if you take out the cringy comedy scenes, the film could be okay, right? Like, I still think Tom Hardy is also not well cast. Like, it just doesn't play to his strengths, and the comedy is so bad and all that stuff. But so when you get the sequel, you get the origin out of the way, that just opens you up for maybe a little bit more action scenes. But like, they could have improved on it. But like, they did not put their best foot forward. It seems like they're doubling down on the more generic elements of the franchise, of what the last film was, when they could have just taken this in such a more interesting direction. Carnage should have been a breath of fresh air, but instead, based off the limited footage we have of him, he may as well be Riot, who was the bad guy from the last film. Like, he's just a palette swap it, So right, exactly. Unless there's some major plot element that's not being involved here that's going to really switch it up, this feels like it's just going to be copy and paste the last film. There's just no ambition on the side of the writers, no attempt of originality.
Or even on the studio's part, right? I mean, like, it doesn't seem like
it feels like it's phoned in.
Yeah, and like one of the biggest like complaints about the original Venom was that it looks like it's something that should have been released around 2004, right? And like, this also looks like it should have been released around 2004. Like, it's just strange. We live in am I in an alternate dimension here?
I feel like getting Andy Serkis as director, the whole point was to like bring in a new voice, and convince us things can be different. But instead, it's the opposite. This feels like a very focus grouped studio head film where the people who are making the film have no love or care about the franchise. Like, you can sort of tell when a director loves the source material. And you don't get that from either of the Venom films. So, which makes me feel like it's made by a committee. And this sort of ties in that thing that I say sometimes with these big tentpole franchise films. I feel like 8 to 9 times out of 10, the director has very little meaningful input. I think there are exceptions, and that's like for like directors who are really make a name for themselves with a specific voice. But yeah, like this could have been directed by a first-time director, and it would look exactly the same. Very disappointing.
It looks trash. Let's move on to our review of the day. Let's move on to Spiral from the Book of Saw.
Whoever did this has another motive. They're targeting cops.
This shit's gonna go sideways fast. Someone's out there pulling all the strings.
Okay, look, I'll kick this off. I hated this movie. Just straight up, I hated it.
You gave it 3 out of 5 stars.
I gave it 2.5 originally, but I changed it because, I thought about it a bit more, and it didn't sit right with me. It reminded me a lot of like my experience after Antebellum, when I watched Antebellum. And the biggest problem I have with this movie is that it takes a social issue and it does nothing with it. It takes a very serious social issue and it does nothing with it. It actually uses that social issue for, I guess, its own kind of like shallow, surfacey level, I guess, advantage. And by the end of it, you kind of feel a little gross because, I mean, like, look, I'm going to go ahead and like just spoil stuff here. So if you're still here, you should know that, part of these like upcoming attractions episode is if you hear the trailer clip or if you hear any part of the movie, there's going to be spoilers that follow. So heavy spoilers. The movie ends with the police killing another black guy. Like, there's no, like, nothing came of this. Nothing is resolved. Nothing is like, and I get that that's in the DNA of these like Saw films, right? Like, I get that, like there's always going to be a cliffhanger, like there's always going to be like, something like a little branch hanging off. But I think it's kind of irresponsible on the filmmaker's part to take something that is such a massive social issue right now and not have anything to say about it and use it in such a shallow way. And it felt a little gross to me. And I think, that, like, after thinking about it a bit, I was like, that to me makes me actually kind of mad. Like, I was like, that's kind of infuriating. And like, it ended up being, in addition to the other issues that I'm going to get to, it kind of ended up being a situation where I looked at all the Saw films and I'm like, I don't think any of the Saw films have really hit me in a way like this did, or really kind of like left a bad taste in my mouth like this did. So I am more than happy to call this the worst in the franchise because of that.
Can I just bring something, challenge you on that point?
Sure.
Because I haven't seen a lot of conversation about it. So I think it'd be good to talk. I just talk about this element of the film for now. Like, let's leave the rest to after.
It probably is the most important element, to be honest.
Well, that's the thing. It might be, but I have a feeling to the writer and directors, to them, it wasn't. Like, because I'm thinking, like, I think we project onto it. Yeah, there's a black cop. There's a lot of talk about police brutality or police overusing their power a little bit. But, like, they never really, to my knowledge, to what I recall, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they ever bring up the race element. Do they? Like, they have some shots that kind of like, from like the dash cam footage, but like, if it is irresponsible or whatever, it's more like the missed opportunity of how they could have tapped into it. But I don't think they make much of an attempt into getting into it. Like, every time they bring it up, it feels like they mention, oh, well, this guy was a dirty cop, and then they move on. Like, I don't feel like, it almost feels like to me like they're avoiding the subject. Like, because they just want to have a detective story. Does that make sense?
I get I get what you mean, and it does, but there is no way that they released this movie not knowing that. Like, not knowing that people will bring this to this movie. There's just absolutely no way. Because Chris Rock wrote it, and he executive produced, and he started it. Like, a person of color.
Are you sure he wrote it?
He did write it.
I know he produced and starred.
Pretty sure he wrote it because he brought the idea to Lionsgate. But it's also like the perpetrator is Max Minghella, who is a person of color. Like, I mean, like he is the bad guy. I don't know, man. Like, it just seems like maybe I am bringing that to it, but that's film. We all bring our own part. Like, we all bring our own things to it. And releasing a Saw film with such a background, with such a kind of like, you know, such a commentary in 2021, like, it's pretty calculated, I think. And to me, it just felt a little gross. But look, I'm going to get to the other issues now. I've kind of like said my piece about that. And I think to me, it justifies me calling it the worst one because I just, like, I don't know, not really a fan of that. There are other like surface level issues with this movie that I have. That was probably the deepest one, I think. But surface level and probably the second biggest issue, Chris Rock is woefully miscast in this movie. Like woefully. He is there are points where he sells it, but the points where he can't stand out so much higher than the ones where he can. Because, man, I'm not even kidding. I wanted to turn to Steph. Like, as soon as he walks into the kind of like subway, I kind of wanted to turn to Steph, and I'm like, I bet you $100 he's going to say, what do we got? And lo and behold, he says, what do we got? It takes, like, you know, but like, not only that, he can't sell the dramatic kind of like detective thinking look. Like, you know, like, he's just like, he scrunches up his face and squints his eyes, and like the shouting that he does is, dude. There's a moment when he gets into his car and he just like starts banging on like the steering wheel, and he's just shouting, and I laughed. I just like let loose. I'm not trying to be mean. I really like Chris Rock, and I was really rooting for this movie to succeed because, I mean, again, I really like Chris Rock. I like the new direction. Well, I like the idea of a new direction. But this felt like CSI Saw, and it felt like a straight to DVD movie. Like, you know, like there was a lot of like, yeah. Sorry, go on.
Well, that sort of gets into my biggest point, and I still don't know if I hold it against the movie or not. But this is not a horror movie. It is a detective film with a few horror-esque moments thrown in. It's kind of like, you know, nowadays we're seeing a lot of horror movies that have like some comedic moments in them, but it's still a horror movie. This is a detective movie with a few horror scenes thrown in. Like, I don't see how anyone could call this a horror movie. Like, there's no sense of dread linking throughout it. And I don't know if that just comes down to bad writing or if that just comes down to, like, the direction of the story.
The writing in this movie is really, really scattershot. I mean, like, there is... Okay, look. All right, here's another thing. One of the virtues, one of the best things about Saw is... you get placed into these like wild traps, right? But you always have an opportunity to escape it, right? It's just like, how far are you willing to go to escape it? There are a couple of situations in here where there is no way out. There is, okay. So like, I think the one with the fingernails, like, there was no way out for him because how does he get out of that like tank without his hands or like you know, whatever?
With this topic, that's a common thing throughout the Saw franchise. Generally, it often comes down to the ones by the original Jigsaw you can get out, but like when Amanda and what's his name, Hoffman become the Jigsaw killers, I
remember that with the scythe.
Yeah, like they often like, I think with that one, like the door was welded, so even if he couldn't get out, he wouldn't be able to escape. Like it just becomes like a lot of copycats. That, right? Yeah, like but like a lot of the copycats never are able to do that. Like I thought this film was actually better in that segment than the others in terms of the philosophy. But like, even if they could get out, it wouldn't make sense with the motivations of the killer, because the killer is trying to get revenge or justice or whatever. So I don't know, that element I can let slide a little bit, but I get what you're saying.
It seemed also that they had Samuel L. Jackson for like 2 days, and they were like,
100%.
Sam, let's just give us however many motherfuckers you got and get the fuck out. Like, you know, like it was just like,
he's like,
you can't afford it. We can't afford it.
I've hit my motherfucker quota. I'm out. Like, we know we make these films cheap.
Right.
You know, say 3 motherfuckers and then call it a day.
Right, exactly. I was listening to an interview with Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed this movie. He directed Saw 2, 3, and 4 as well. And something I really appreciate about this movie and about the entire franchise as a whole, well, actually, the ones that he directed, and including this one, he's like, this is a quote. I'm kind of like paraphrasing here a little bit, but he's like, with Jigsaw and with the Saw killer, whoever's the killer, I wanted the traps to be things that you could find at any kind of like any like hardware warehouse, whatever. Like, you know, like any plain old joke and go. He actually, like, in this interview, he criticized Jigsaw, the movie Jigsaw. He's like, once we're getting into lasers, that's just fucking wild. Like, there's just no fucking way.
That was pretty bad. That one.
I really appreciated like some of the simplicity of like the traps in this one. Like, you know, the opening trap was probably my favorite. Like that was the most intense for me. Like I was like, oh, okay, we're in for a fucking movie here. I can't wait for this. Like we're good. Here we go. And it just fucking nosedive from there, dude. Like, you know. But look, I've gone on for ages. Give me your thoughts.
Look, yeah, like I think with the Saw movies, they have a certain structure to them, which what makes them feel like a Saw movie in a way. And the fact that this one deviates from all of that by focusing more on the detective side, like you lose that horror element. And so I feel like maybe that's part of the reason why it wasn't out in October. Like maybe they didn't, and the trailers too, didn't look like a horror movie. So I feel like they purposely were trying to go back on that a little bit, but which it seems like a weird choice because we're watching this franchise for the horror stuff. So it's a weird choice, but what this film does that this franchise has been missing since, I don't know, Saw 4 maybe, is that we had a likable protagonist. Like Chris Rock, his performance isn't always fantastic. I think a lot of it comes down to I'm used to hearing him yell when he's being funny. And so hearing him yell when he's scared or angry, it took a little bit of getting used to, but I didn't think he was the worst. But I do think it would have been better if we had maybe someone cast that was a bit more associated with dramatic acting. But yeah, I do think this was the first film since I think Saw 4 where the protagonist was like really likable. And I was actually rooting for him, and I actually enjoyed the detective work. Like for half this franchise, the detective scenes are pretty fucking boring. So that's why I feel like this new direction is a welcome one, just because I can be with the characters more. I'm not just like looking at my watch waiting for the next trap to come. But I do think for this to be a horror franchise, I need to be having some level of fear or dread outside of the traps. And that's what this is missing for me. But I do respect the fact they experimented with the formula. And I think they took like, you know, it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back a little bit in that sense. I like the traps for the exception of, I don't like the water one. I feel like that was a bit, but all the other ones, like the glass one.
Which was the water one?
Oh, the one with the fingers and like he had the pool of water behind him. I like the idea of ripping off the fingers. I like the idea of ripping off the fingers, but the whole water electrocuting, I don't know. I think that's a little weird. But what I love about this film is the traps feel like a more return to form for the most part. It feels...
Yeah, I think one of my favorites is the glass bottles getting fucking shredding that guy, dude. That was fucking sick.
That was fucking great. Although what I will say though, and this has been a pet peeve of mine throughout the majority of the franchise, is I hate it when they're expected to solve something cryptic. Like with this one, he's like, he says some shit like, the tape says some shit like, you turn your back and throw away the key. And he's like, oh, the key is under the rubbish bin. It's kind of like, you're not really testing his will to live, which is meant to be the point of the traps. You're just like, you're asking some guy who's just been chloroformed and is being murdered to death to solve a riddle. And it's kind of like, the riddle solving has never made sense in the Saw franchise for me.
Also, just quickly while we're on this scene, the the hacksaw, like him being chained up to the pipe and like him holding up the hacksaw. I thought that was going to be they used that in the trailer, and I'm pretty sure they only did it so they could put it in the trailer. Because that was 100%. Immediately resolved. Immediately.
Yeah, they're like, we got the shot, resolve it. Yeah. It felt like it was like an Easter egg that was really it's like the most forced Easter egg of all time. 100%. It's actually like what, there just happened to be a bobby pin on the floor. Like, now the killer's got a sense of humor. Like, get the fuck out. Like, if it was something from like his belt, I would have been like, oh, okay, cool, he's a smart guy. But yeah, look, so with all that in mind, I think also something that kind of hurts the film is what makes the Saw films these big twist endings, right? Where everything comes together with that awesome music coming in. And like, for example, Saw 4, I don't think is one of the best Saw films, but I think it's one of the best endings because
just really briefly, is that the one where Strum gets caught in the glass?
No, that's crushed. 5, I think. 4 is where you find out it's been happening at the same time as 3. So there's the detective. It's the only one where the detective like can actually turn away from all times at any point, but he's gone from location to location. But like all he had to do is just not play the game to win. But his need of catching Jigsaw was like too great. And then the big twist is that you find out 4 is taking place at the same time as 3, and so all the events converge, kind of like how I imagine Back to the Future 2 is supposed to be. And it's like this really cool moment.
Don't take guesses at what Back to the Future is. You're still remembering. You're still trying to figure out what the Lone Pines
I just laughed so hard
is.
I unplugged my earphones.
I was just saying you're still trying to figure out what the Lone Pine Mall thing is.
Fuck you. But look, man, I overall, as a diehard hardcore Saw fan who can even appreciate some of the shittier ones, look, I thought it was an interesting experiment to go in this new direction. I like the fact that we had a bit more of an interesting protagonist, even if the performance wasn't all there. But it's not where I want the franchise to go. And I remember that I saw them saying like after releasing this, they're going to make Saw 10. So this is still a spin-off, but it's in line with it. So I hope the next one's a bit more structurally a return to form. But my big problem with this film and Jigsaw is that they both feel like they're in separate universes from the other films. Like, there's still unresolved plot points or stuff they could go into from the other films. I'd like it to feel like more of a continuation. So if they do another one, I like to see all this stuff come back together, because that was some of the stronger points about even the shittier Saw films, is that they would add new context to the previous films and stuff like that. And you know what? Like, this isn't even the best time Saw tried to take on a social topic, because Saw 6 was all about exposing Big Pharma and how the medical industry is just
that was one of the better sequels, in my opinion. Watching
that recently. Watching that recently, like, oh, I really underrated Saw 6 because it's coming off Saw 5 and it's a very similar like narrative structure to Saw 5, so it's easy to lump them together. But 6 is all like, you kind of want them to die because they've like, you know, played with people's lives with financial shit and stuff you can probably relate to.
5's got one of the best twists, in my opinion. I love the idea of, like, you know, if they had worked together instead of being greedy, all of them could have survived the traps, which is, I really enjoyed that fucking twist.
That was pretty good. I don't like 5 as much because I just don't like, you know, how it follows Strum and Hoffman as much, and I find them both kind of boring. Obviously, the worst one is the final chapter.
So boring. Final chapter is so bad.
It's so bad. And you know what, though? Watching it the other day, it felt real weird because Linkin Park is one of my favorite bands, and to see Chester's get murdered in it, it's like, oh, this feels weird. Like Kate was like, they should take this down. Like she's like, this does not feel appropriate. I'm like, you know what? I see where you're coming from. I'm usually like
hard.
separate.
He got paid.
Yeah, he is a big fan of the films too, apparently. So.
Well, okay,
yeah.
so...
It also feels weird because in that scene just before it, Jigsaw's like, Evan, or whatever the fuck his name is, you and your friend are racists. It's like, oh, it's Jigsaw, so now you're woke now? Like, it's okay to murder all these people, but racism's where you draw the line. Okay, I see where...
I really kind of want to know, I forgot to highlight how much I hated the twist reveal in this movie, in Spiral, because it didn't feel like a twist reveal. Like, it was just like, oh, hi, so it's you. Like, they didn't play the track that everyone knows is called Hello Zep, which is the music. They didn't play that at the right moment. They played it right when the cops bust in to, I guess, shoot Samuel L. Jackson, and Max Minghell's character escapes. Like, that's when they played it, but that's not the big twist of the movie.
Yeah,
right?
It's funny because the way this film is structured, it's because the final test is more personal and he's there with him, which, for the record, I thought it was kind of cool to see how calm and collected he was while he's revealing all this shit and walking him through the trap. That was kind of a little bit fresh. And I think that final trap wasn't bad. I thought it was actually kind of interesting. But yeah, like they play the music because they're always like, all right, we associate that with the ending. And so they try to treat like the way the trap works like a twist. And I guess it's kind of like a minor twist, but it doesn't have the same impact of finding out he's the killer.
Right.
But but also on top of that too, it's not that surprising because there aren't many suspects around. Like anyone who's watched a few movies should suspect him.
Also, how he doesn't escape, right? Like, I mean, the SWAT see him go down the lift.
He walks out the room casually. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Okay.
Did you not surround the building? Are you not like?
Surely.
Did you not create a perimeter? Like,
let's very very quickly. I wanted to go through your rankings because I've got them here.
Oh fuck, I don't even remember them.
So I'll go ahead and read them to you. Number 1, you have Saw, which I 100% agree with. Number 2, you have Saw 3.
Yes.
I like Saw 3. I think it's solid. I think the first 3 form like this unofficial trilogy because it has a beginning, middle, and end. Because it obviously ends with him dying.
Yeah, I believe 3 was originally meant to be the last one, and I could be wrong, but I believe it's the last one. Yeah, Lee Winnell wrote the first 2, and the second one he originally was like some other script, but then like he came in and did heavily rewrites on it. Right. But yeah, basically he was still credited as a writer. Yeah.
So yeah, Saw 2 you have on your third spot. I'm gonna say Saw 2 is a little stronger than 3 in my opinion. I really like the twist of like the son being in the safe the whole time. That was really strong. That was
tough. 2 and 3 I struggled with because 2 I'm actually the most nostalgic for, to be honest. That is the amazing needle scene. But for me, 3, the ending where you find out it was actually Amanda's test and like she was being tested as a way to check if she was worthy of his legacy. That blew my mind. I know some people don't like 3 because the protagonist was a bit unlikable but you know, also it's like he's being punished for grieving over his dead son. Like that feels a bit. So yeah, 2 and 3 I think are pretty tight.
Saw 2 gets gets a bump because you see the reverse bear trap actually going off.
Yeah,
that's Amanda's kind of like, you know, Amanda's one. Saw 4.
I'll also say real quick.
Please.
I like to say the one thing I also really like about Saw 2 is from Saw 3 onwards, they almost all follow the same plot, which is some guy in a room walking from trap to trap.
Right. Yeah.
What's cool with Saw 2, while it is a bunch of people in a house, they at least like they can go from room to room. There's a bit of variety, and it feels more like a organic narrative structure.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Saw 4, I barely remember. Like barely. I remember the hair, the scalp.
Yes. That was fucked
I remember
up.
That. Was there a block of ice in that one too? Someone's standing on a block of ice. It's melting.
That's Saw 3. No, that is Saw 4. Yeah. So with that, it's Detective Matthews who's in all 4, the first 4.
Donnie Wahlberg. That's Mark Wahlberg's brother.
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly. And then that one, it's about a detective going from room to room because the obsession with Jigsaw, and if he just didn't do anything, everything would have been okay. And it cool ties really into 3. So it's leading up to the ending. It's not like the best, but the ending is so great that I hold it pretty highly.
Number 5, Spiral from the Book of Saw, which is already incorrect. Sorry.
Look, it might be recency bias. No, to be fair, it could be recency bias. It's just the fact that it feels different. Maybe. It's, cool.
Saw 6, I remember liking. That's the one with the insurance guys, right?
The medical,
the big pharma guys,
insurance people. Yeah, I might swap that with Spiral actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jigsaw was trash. Hated Jigsaw, dude. That was so bad. I don't remember. I couldn't tell you a single thing about that movie except there was a laser trap. That's it. I don't remember anything at all. Saw 5. Give me one trap from Saw 5.
I think the scythe swinging was that you mentioned. I think that's the beginning of Saw 5.
Is that 5?
I think.
Okay.
I think so. Like Saw 5 is also the one that ends with the coffin. With the shards, if you go in,
yes,
and then the room
I thought that was
closes on
pretty
you.
sick. I really like that. I think Saw 5 should be above Jigsaw and Spiral.
Yeah, you can make that argument. That's not a bad argument.
Saw 5 and Saw the Final Chapter should be above Jigsaw and Spiral. I don't think that, because there are some things to like in Saw the Final Chapter. I mean, like, I don't mind I like the return of Dr. Gordon. Like, that was pretty sick.
Oh, that's the best part of the film,
right?
For sure. Look, the Final Chapter, the main reason it's down there is, actually, I think they touch on some
that opens it. The public.
Look, I remember the day I saw the trailer for the first time, and I was like, "This is the perfect way to end the franchise." If you're focusing on public traps, you're taking Saw's message to the world, like you make it worldwide. He's actually going to impact multiple lives. That's the perfect way to fulfill his legacy. But they only do it with one trap, and then it just sort of goes after that. And then the main trap storyline, it touches on a really cool subject. It's about this guy who's he's pretended he's a victim, so he could like involve,
sell books.
So he could profit off it and stuff. But then that doesn't tie into the main plot line. It's like you can cut the whole B story and it won't connect into the main story at all. And that for me is like the ultimate sin, because you've just given me a plot line which is meaningless. It has no narrative like purpose other than thematic. It's got thematic purpose, but it doesn't actually help push the story forward. So you can take out almost all the traps and it's the same fucking movie. And that really, pissed me off.
There you go.
Yeah. At least with Spiral, with Jigsaw, I'll say like, it's got some cool moments in it, but it feels very watered down. And the big sins Jigsaw does is they bring back Tobin Bell, which is amazing. And you find out, and then like they sort of make you think he's still alive. And then the twist is, no, he was dead. This has all happened like 10 years ago. It was his first trap or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay. So basically, when the twist happens, the movie gets 10 times worse because you've taken out everything. Like when you do a twist, it should elevate the story and make everything from then on more exciting and more interesting. It should raise the stakes. But by revealing that he's been dead the whole time, this has all been a flashback, you've actually lowered the stakes, and that's just fucking bad, dude.
It's boring. Yeah. Well, that's it, man. That's Spiral. That's our kind of like little look at the Saw franchise as well. We've got some more Saw coming up. We're going to be talking about Saw, the first film, in depth a little bit more on the bonus feed over this weekend, which should be exciting. We've also got The Gift finally coming up. You know, that's a movie that we've been talking about for a while, starring Joel Edgerton from Blacktown. So fucking cool.
Hey, shout outs.
Matt, we're about to close it off. What do you have? Do you have anything to plug? Do you have anything to talk about?
Check out my YouTube channel, Venom Films, youtube.com, Venom Films. I've been pumping out a lot of content there lately. I recently put out a comparison between Mortal Kombat Annihilation and Mortal Kombat 2021. because they have some really weird similarities with the story, which I think is kind of hilarious. But yeah, besides that, thanks for hanging out. I hope you guys are loving our content here at Midnight Double Feature. Yeah. And
Nice.
don't forget to give us a review on iTunes. That really helps out the podcast.
Definitely do that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you do want to hit our socials, just scroll down, check the show notes. I was about to say case notes. I'm still on work fucking work mode. Check the show notes. All of our details down there. Again, head to patreon.com/Midnight Double Feature to please support the show. You get a whole bunch of bonus episodes and you get to interact with us and a bunch of videos of our interviews, which is pretty cool. So if you want to see two-time Emmy nominee Fabian Wagner in the flesh, head to our Patreon. Other than that, guys, we'll see you guys next week here on Midnight Double Feature. Catch you later.